Okay, now let's configure our domain controller, and we're going to configure some policies, create some users, and just take a general look at Active Directory. So on your domain controller, go ahead and log in. Remember here that this is the funky password that we set up with the capital P at $, lowercase w, 0rd exclamation. This should be your administrator password. So from here, we are brought again to this Server Manager dashboard. Now let's go ahead and click on Tools up here, and we're going to select Active Directory Users and Computers. So go ahead and select that. And if we click into this marvel.local here, you can see we have a few different OUs. These are organizational units. Now we've got a bunch of built-in security groups here. We have computers. If any computers are joined to the domain, they will show up here. We've got our domain controllers, which is Hydra-DC. And we've got other things here. We've got manage accounts, which don't have any. Foreign security principals don't have any of those. And then users. So we've got security groups in here. I like to just create a new group, and we can just like right click in here and say new, and then say group or organizational unit actually. And then we can just say groups, something like this, say okay. And then I like to take all these groups out of the users accounts and then kind of just drag them over and say, yes, that's fine. Copy these, drag these over, say, yes, that's fine. And now we've got it nice and cleaned out for our users area. Now note this little down arrow next to guest. If you see a down arrow on account, that means that the account has been disabled. So from here, we have our administrator user. We could double click on that. We can provide all kinds of little properties, descriptions, etc. We can pick what groups this person is a member of. So you could see that the administrator is a member of domain admins, which means that they are an administrator, enterprise admins as well, schema admins, and domain users. So if you're a domain user, that means you are able to log into the domain. So we're going to create a couple of domain users, and we'll create another domain admin as well, or two, and just give an idea for what these accounts are going to look like. So first, let's go ahead and just right click, and we're going to say new, and then we're going to say user. And I'm going to go ahead first and create Frank Castle. So I'm just going to say Frank Castle, and then you're going to want to pick your naming convention here. So I'm just going to say F Castle like this. First initial, last name, go ahead and hit next. And then here you're going to pick a password. I'm going to give him password 1 again, just like I did before. And then I'm going to say the password never expires. This is bad. I'm not going to have them change the next login. I'm not going to say the user can't change the password. Should just be like that. Finish, and there you go. Okay, so let's create another user. I'm going to right click on administrator, and I'm just going to say copy. And here I'm copying a domain admin. And so what's going to happen, let's create another user. We'll say Tony Stark. Tony Stark is going to be our domain admin. We'll say T Stark, hit enter for next. And we can give him a more complex password if you want. So I'm going to give him something like password 2019 exclamation @#. It's not great by any means, but it's a little bit better. And then we'll just say password never expires. Next, finish. Okay, let's create 2 more users. So let's create this user here, and we're going to right click on Frank Castle. We'll say copy. And on this one, we're going to we'll say Spider-Man. We'll say Peter Parker and P Parker here. Okay. And then we can have a different password for Peter. We can just say something like password 2. And then password 2 again. Okay, password never expires. Good. Next, finish. And just to show you what's going on, so let's click into Peter Parker. You can see Peter Parker's just a member of domain users because we copied that property from Frank Castle. Now, if we looked at Tony Stark, you could see that Tony Stark is a member of all the same groups as this administrator because we copied that from the administrator. So Tony Stark is a domain administrator, which is exactly what we want right now. So we're going to create one more user. Let's go ahead and create a fake SQL account. So we're going to right click and we're going to copy Tony Stark and we're going to do a no-no. We're going to make this SQL service account a domain administrator. Now your service accounts should not be domain administrator accounts, but I would say probably 70% of the time that I'm doing a pen test, the service accounts are domain administrators. And I'll show you why here in just a few videos, why it's bad and what we can do to attack those service accounts that are domain administrators. So from here, let's just call this SQL service, something like this. And we'll just call this SQL service, just like that. Okay. And we'll hit next. And then on this, we're going to give it a password. I'm going to give it a password of something like my password, and we'll just call it 123#. My password. Actually, I'm messing this up. So I'm going to give you the syntax. Capital M, capital Y, lowercase password, 123#. Capital M, Y, lowercase password, 123#. Go ahead, hit next, and finish that. So if you needed that one more time, I'll open up a notepad, and that is my password, 123#. All right. Now, I'm going to open up the SQL Service user, and in the description, let's say that I forgot the password, or I'm just going to say password is, and then we'll just say something like my password, 123#. Now you'll see why this is bad later on, but a lot of domain administrators like to put passwords of their service accounts in the description because they think that they are the only ones that can read them. Not true. We'll see how we can read this later on, but for now we'll just say password is my password, 123#. And we got a few users in here and we've kind of got this set up. So this is good to go. Let's go ahead and do a couple more things. So let's go ahead and set up a file share. So click on this down here, and if I clicked on that too fast, file and storage services under server manager. And then we're going to click on shares right here. And then there's a task up here at the top. Go ahead and just say new share. And we'll just select SMB share quick. Share location is Hydra DC, that's fine, C drive. And we'll just say the share name is going to be HackMe, something like that. Okay, hit next, next, next. We're just gonna use all defaults, create, and close. So now we have this C shares HackMe share. Why did I just do that? Because most domain controllers have file shares, and we talked about this before, but we wanted to open up 139 and 445 so that we have SMB enabled on this domain controller. So if we were to scan against it, we would see that there is 139, 445, and we can leverage some attacks against this. And we're going to enable that on our machines as well when we're searching or having file shares on our personal user computers as well. So for now, this is good. And we're going to do a couple more things. So let's go ahead and let's open up a command prompt. So go ahead and just type in command and run that as an administrator. And we're going to create what is called an SPN, a service principal name. And don't worry too much about what we're doing right now. We're going to talk about this way more when it comes time, and we're going to talk about the attack related to this. We're setting up an attack for Kerber roasting, and that is an attack that attacks services. Okay, so we set up the SQL service. We're going to attack the SQL service, but we have to set up a service principal name, which we'll cover a bit later on in the course. So first, let's go ahead and get that set up. So we're going to say set SPN, and then we're going to do a -A, and we're going to say Hydra DC, or whatever you named your domain controller. And then we're going to say SQL service whatever you named your SQL service should be the same as mine, .marvel.local like this. And then we'll pick a port. I'm picking 60111. And then we're going to say Marvel like this. And then we'll say SQL service. So again, set SPN-A, Hydra-GC, which is the computer name, SQL service.marvel.local, port of 60111, and then Marvel SQL service, hit enter. And then it's going to say checking it, registering it, and updated that object. Perfect. Now let's make sure that it is set. So we're going to say set SPN-T, and we're going to say marvel.local like this, -Q, and then a wildcard /wildcard. Hit enter. And down at the bottom, you can see that the SQL service has been set, Hydra-DC, SQL service.marvel.local 60111. Perfect. Okay, so now we have set up our users, we have set up our Kerberoasting attack, we have set up our SMB shares. There's one last thing we need to do. So let's close that. Let's come into here and let's start typing in group policy. So we got group policy management here. Right click and run as administrator. And you can see that we've got the forest here of marvel.local. Go ahead and drill down into domains and you see marvel.local here. I'm going to go ahead and right click and say create a GPO in this domain and link it here. And this GPO is going to be called Disable Windows Defender. All right, now hit enter. And I realize that some of you are going to be wondering why we're disabling Windows Defender. So let's talk about this. There are many courses out there that show you antivirus evasion and bypassing, and I think it's great. And it is important to know those topics. The reason why we're not going into that in this course is because it changes so significantly, so quickly. A lot of these attacks are still going to work regardless of the antivirus that you have. Most of these attacks are going to work. So what is important is to know the fundamentals of the attacks. If I show you AV evasion today, within 2 to 3 months, it's going to be obsolete. And I hate to have that in a course and then have people get upset or frustrated that it's getting detected because it's always changing. So I'd rather show you the foundations and the fundamentals and then let you learn the AV bypassing as the techniques come up, as the time changes. Remember, being a good penetration tester is about sticking with the times and staying up to date. As long as you're staying up to date, you're going to be fine. Knowing the foundations and the basics are way more important at this stage than any AV evasion or crazy fun technique like that. So please bear with me. We're going to get through this and we're going to disable Defender. We're going to work on all these attacks, learn the basics, and then you can improve upon that from there. So go ahead and right click on this Disable Windows Defender here and select Edit. And then we're going to navigate in this computer configuration right here. We're going to click on computer configuration and we're going to go into policies and we're going to go into administrative templates. And we're going to select Windows components down here. And then if you scroll all the way down, there's going to be a Windows Defender. And we've got Windows Defender right here on antivirus. And we're going to click on that. And then we're going to turn off Windows Defender Antivirus. Double click. And we're just going to select enabled here. Okay. And then we are going to apply and select OK. Now, let's also go into Windows Defender Exploit Guard and see if there's any protections that we need. There's not. Defender Smart Screen, no detections that we need either. So, as of right now, we are good. We've got Defender turned off. We have the policy enabled. So once we actually join our domain PCs to the domain, we will have no Windows Defender enabled on them, which is perfect. That's how we want to attack this. So now let's go ahead and close this, and we have successfully configured this part of our course. What we're going to do next is we're going to finish setting up our PCs, our user PCs. We're going to join them to the domain, and we're going to enable some file shares on those, and then we'll be ready to start attacking those. So I'm very, very excited. Once this lab's built, we're going to be ready to roll. So I'll see you over in the next video when we join our PCs to the domain.